Fire department was called to their house on the morning of July 6, 1986, and a fire had been set, and it was determined to be an arson. It was a gasoline fueled, and the couple was found by the firemen in their bedroom, stabbed over 50 times. Dyke had been stabbed 28 times. He was 28 years old. Karen was 26, or I'm sorry, she was 25, and was stabbed 26 times. April of 2000, the Innocence Project, the Downstate Illinois Innocence Project, and the Center for Wrongful Conviction out of Northwestern had collaborated and asked the Illinois State Police to review a homicide that had occurred in 1986. The homicide was a brutal homicide in the small town of Paris, Illinois. Paris, Illinois is in east central Illinois. The murders occurred in July 1986. A young couple, Dyke and Karen Rhoads. They were in the infancy of their marriage, had only been married 3 months. Both were 2 kids that were well liked, both considered handsome and athletic. Karen was beautiful and athletic. Investigation ensued between the Edgar County State's Attorney's Office, the Paris Police Department, and the state police. And less than 1 year later, they arrested Randy Steidle and Herb Whitlock. Randy Steidle and Herb were probably known as local barflies that liked to party a lot, liked to hang around and pick up girls, pretty carefree lifestyle. Came from decently affluent families, good families, had never really been in trouble with the law to any type of violent or major extent. And the police centered their investigation on both men about 3 months after the murders occurred, when one of the first eyewitnesses showed up. The case had actually no physical evidence whatsoever to link these 2 men to the crime. If there was any physical evidence, most of it was destroyed by the fire. So they based their whole case on the first eyewitness coming forward, and then later, 7 months later, a second eyewitness coming forward. First eyewitness wasn't the type of eyewitness you would want to use. He was known as the town drunk, had long lost his driver's license because he had so many DUIs. They'd taken revoked his license. He had a history of felony deceptive practice. Actually, we would find that he had mental health issues so severe that he received electroshock therapy. The man's name was Daryl Harrington. One of the things that stood out in the case was the police immediately, he gave the story to the police that 2 other men, not Randy or Herb, but Jim and Ed, had committed the murders. The police hid and withheld that information, and they never made reports on it. But because of that, they gave him a lie detector, and when they asked him the questions, he was found to have been lying on the lie detector, the polygraph. Subsequently, the police decided to hide that polygraph too and never disclose it. 7 months after the murders, Debbie Reinbold comes forward. She too is similar to Daryl Harrington. She has a history of mental illness. She's in and out of medical facilities most of her life. I was asked to review this case in 2000, 14 years after the murder. The Downstate Innocence Project asked for us to review it. At the time, George Ryan was our governor, and we all know the history of George Ryan. He ended up in a federal prison on racketeering and corruption. And during the Ryan administration, the upper command of the Illinois State Police changed dramatically. It became very politicized, and the obvious intent of the State Police Command was to keep any scandal at a minimum. They wanted no embarrassment. The Ryan administration wanted no embarrassment because at this time he was under federal investigation. When I reviewed this case, I came back and said these 2 men are innocent. I believe that our own officers withheld evidence, violated Brady. There's issues of wrongdoing and corruption by the prosecutor in both police agencies. There was also other suspects that had not been investigated that they admitted were suspects. One of these suspects was a multimillionaire, Karen Rhoads' boss, who was obviously connected to George Ryan. He was a big campaign contributor to George Ryan. After disclosing that information to my command, I was brought into the 2nd floor of the Armory building in Springfield, the State Police Command headquarters, and I was told by my colonel to keep my mouth shut. We could not reinvestigate the Rhoads case because it was too politically sensitive. The good news is Randy Steidle and Herb Whitlock were finally freed. judges of state appellate court have ruled that yes, there were Brady violations. There was evidence that had been withheld in their trials. And there's actually the state's attorney that was the prosecutor of the case has now admitted to actually using narcotics while he was state's attorney. So a lot of the things that we wanted to investigate back in 2000 have now come true. So that is the good news. The two men are free. They filed expensive civil lawsuits. The bad news is the Rhoads case remains unsolved, and nobody is trying to solve